Hello and welcome to another episode of the Vegan Next Door podcast. I'm your host, Marissa Price, and each week I'll be bringing you a new episode discussing different topics related to how and why to go vegan, as well as how to live a more compassionate, ethical lifestyle, and to inspire those around you to do so. This podcast is for anyone who's ever thought about going vegan, vegetarian, or for anyone who is already vegan and vegetarian, a sense of community so that way you can continue to make these ethical choices and to encourage those around you to do the same and continue to better your own corner of the world. You can follow me on Instagram at the Vegan Next Door Cast. Please watch my stories as well as my posts. You can also like my page on Facebook, The Vegan Next Door, and you can join the Facebook group, The Vegan Next Door Group, on Facebook to discuss weekly shows and anything of your fancy. Please join and add to the discussion. Hi guys, I'm back. Sorry for my month-long hiatus here. If you were following me on social media, you could see that I've been all over the place, sort of running myself ragged a little bit with a couple different work trips, projects, and work events, a vacation, and then I just started yoga teacher training right when I got back from all that travel after being away from home for like 3 weeks. So, I've just been adjusting back to being at home, and it feels good. I'm so happy to be back doing the podcast again. I missed you all. Got some great things from some of you in the meantime. So thanks for sending those in. I'll be going over some listener mail and questions later. Super excited about all of that. And yeah, I hope everyone's month has gone well. Hello, welcome to week 8. So today is pretty exciting because I'm mixing it up a bit, and guess what? We have our very first guest on the show. So I'm going to start bringing in guests into the podcast so that way we can keep the conversation going. You know, my original intent for this podcast was to have it be very conversational and laid back. But I mean, obviously we're talking about important issues, but you know, I don't want this podcast to like stress anybody out. Because I like to listen to podcasts that are like conversational and laid back. So the whole idea is that, you know, I'm like your friend or your next door neighbor, and we're just sitting down and having a cup of coffee together. So, gonna start sitting down and having a cup of coffee with other people. I've got a lot of different people in the works and a lot of requests coming in for people to be on the show. So stay tuned for those. So this week we're kicking it off with a vegan firefighter and paramedic who is also my boyfriend and who went vegan originally for me when we very first started dating. But then he very quickly obviously realized how awesome it is and so many reasons to be vegan that really helped him make his transition to veganism. So we're going to talk about him and our relationship and stuff in a little bit. But before we get to the interview, wanted to do our normal section. So just catching up. This week I have just been working and let's see, I'm in yoga teacher training, like I mentioned in the last episode. So that's cool. It's like every other weekend, and it's really intensive on those weekends. And then in between that, I have homework and I have to go to actual yoga classes at different studios and, you know, experience those and like take notes and all that. So just been working on that, been doing actual work. And let's see, one of my best friends in Oklahoma, shout out Mary, is getting married next month, so I'm gonna go out there. So next month I'll be in Oklahoma for a couple days. Super exciting. Yeah, I'll be doing that. So bought my tickets for that recently, and trying to think, what else have I been doing? Oh, it's been raining like crazy here. I don't know about you all. I know everyone's listening from all over, but East Coast folks, I think it's affecting everybody on the East Coast. It's raining like almost every day, but then there'll be like patches of sun randomly throughout the day, but you never know when it's going to happen. So it just seems to, like, the forecast pretty much every day is like rain and thunderstorms. So you're like, okay, I guess I'll just stay inside. I don't know. So yeah, this weekend it was like raining a ton. So we all had a nice lazy day watching movies. We watched some of my favorites, some Harry Potter movies, and one of the Hobbit movies. And then, yeah, did like some yard work when it wasn't raining, and cleaning, and, you know, chores and things like that. So anyway, yeah, pretty chill week. But yeah, lots in the works for guests, so I'm super excited for that. If you have any suggestions for guests that you would like to hear on the show, please let me know. So you can email me at the vegan next door podcast at gmail.com. So again, that's the vegan next door podcast at gmail.com. Please feel free to email me any suggestions that you have for future show topics, any feedback, any suggestions you have for guests. If you would like to be a guest on the show, let me know. And remember as well that I have my Patreon account. So if you would like to support me doing this show, you can sign up and join our group of patrons there. And you can just pledge to give whatever you would like monthly. And there are different tiers. You can check it out. And there's different like benefits for each tier. So we're kicking that off. So if you'd like to join, I do have some patrons on there now, so please feel free to join that. And some of the perks are that we can all get together for monthly Google Hangouts, and that you can be on the show, and that you play more of a bigger role in helping me pick out future show episode topics. So if you'd like to do that, please head over to Patreon and check that out. And if you are unable to support the show financially, but you're enjoying it, there's still a ton of other ways that you can support it. If you definitely make sure that you are subscribed to the show on whatever way that you use podcasts. If it's iTunes or Stitcher, maybe you're listening directly on Podbean. And I am working on getting Google Play up, as well as YouTube. And I also have Spotify already up. So whatever way that you listen to podcasts, be sure to subscribe, and then also be sure to rate and review me. That would be a huge help. That'd be really helpful in just getting the show out there to more people. And I love to hear your reviews as well. And iTunes doesn't tell me people's names when you write a review. So if you wouldn't mind, I would love to know who you are writing me these really nice reviews. And even if you have constructive feedback, that's great too. But if you write me a review, please copy and paste it or screenshot it, and email or Instagram or Facebook message me your name and your review, because I would love to see that it's you. And also in the next couple months, when I actually get some podcast swag completed for you all, I would love to snail mail, sorry, not email, end of the long day here, snail mail you some cool podcast swag as a thank you for writing me a review. So, please do that. So rate, review, subscribe. That would all be really helpful. And then also, we're getting a little bit of traction on the Facebook group too. So I would, like I keep saying, this podcast is meant for you. I want the listeners to be driving it. And so it is a little bit. And I want even more of that. So if you would join the Vegan Next Door podcast group, you can join the group and introduce yourself. We had one person introduce themselves and a couple new members. So please don't be shy. Join the group. And, there's been some engagement, some sharing of breakfast recipes and pizza, cheese stuffed pizza crust and all that stuff. So I think it's really fun. I love seeing that. So if you want to go over to the group and engage more there, that would be awesome. And just continue to kind of make this community and show that we are supporting each other. It's really beautiful. So don't miss out. Get over on there. I know Facebook is kind of dying as a social media outlet, but I know that also a lot of groups still tend to be very popular for different communities. Like I'm in some other Facebook groups. So yeah, it's reason enough to get on Facebook, even if you're not already on there very frequently, and get on over there and engage. So thank you to everyone who's been on the group. Love seeing that. Love to hear from everyone. So please feel free to message me like all the time on how your journey's going. Let's see, I already said all my podcast updates. And now over to our news segment. So some really exciting news articles this week that I found. First of all, 338 dairy farms closed in Wisconsin this year, and they're closing all across Wisconsin at a rate that is 30% higher than it was this time last year, because plant-based milks continue to be on the rise. So 338 dairy farms closed in Wisconsin just this year. Wow, that's a lot. That's crazy. I think that speaks volumes to, what we talked about on this podcast before, that a lot of people are turning away from dairy, even when they still often eat meat, or maybe they eat processed foods that have like milk powder in them. But also a lot of processed foods are on the rise that are vegan. Dean Foods, a big food company, is already pivoting toward plant-based brands by becoming a major shareholder of the flax milk-based company Good Karma Foods last month. So that's huge. I'm not sure how that's going in terms of like these farms closing down and then what's happening to the cows. I mean, I bet a lot of them are just being sent for slaughter, unfortunately. I don't really know, but at least overall that's going to be fewer cows that are being raised and then slaughtered. And then also similarly, another article in Veg News talks about how 2.5 billion pounds of U.S. meat stockpile. So, okay, first of all, like what? We have a U.S. meat stockpile of 2.5 billion pounds. That's disgusting. They're like in cold storage meat warehouses. And I don't really know the background. I've never even heard this of like a meat stockpile. I guess it's like maybe like how long is the meat in there? I don't know how gross and weird, right? But anyway, I guess it's like something that that we have, like the USDA, Department of Agriculture, has these meat stockpiles, and this is excess meat products that aren't being sold. So, of this stockpile, it's nearing a record high, and this is chicken, pork, and beef. And this is due to a decline in consumer demand for meat. Wow. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And then also, this is kind of messed up. Despite the near record high stockpile, the USDA estimates the industry will produce 102.7 billion pounds of meat this year, which will result in a significant profit loss for farmers who will scramble to sell it at a deep discount. Then also it goes on to say, meanwhile, as dairy consumption plummets, which is down by 22% from 2006 to 2016, overabundance of dairy products continues to accumulate, with cheese stockpiles hitting a record high of 1.39 billion pounds earlier this year. Wow. Crazy. Wow. I didn't even realize that there's like meat and dairy stockpiles. That's like totally bizarre to me. And then alternatively, I guess some new studies have shown that nutritional yeast, aka Nooch, as we've talked about, there's some market research done by nutritional yeast companies, I think. Let's see. And basically they said that it's poised to boom by 2027. So I thought that was funny. It's like really specific, like 2027. Usually it's like by 2020 or 2050 or something like that. But basically, because there's been a boom in veganism, like across the world and the country, like multiple different demographics, 17% of the U.S. population between the ages of 15 to 70 is currently consuming plant-based products such as nutritional yeast. And as this continues to increase, nutritional yeast is getting ready to expand production. And then similarly, the tempeh industry is set to reach $5.8 billion by 2026, and the tofu industry at $24 billion by 2022, which is in just like, what, 4 years? That's really exciting. So we see that these vegan markets are on the rise. So animal products are declining and the industries are starting to fail, and animal and non-animal products, vegan products, are on the rise. Super, super cool. Yeah, good news. Good news segment today. Positive, pretty powerful. Now, before we go on to our main event, just wanted to do our recap of last week's episode. We talked about vegan cookouts, and we talked about the top rated vegan hot dogs and burgers, and then we talked about vegan beer, and then I also talked a while about the Animal Rights Conference and why I had been on a hiatus and everything. So hopefully last week's episode was interesting to you. I think it's always fun to talk about delicious food and beer. Yeah, and I also posted a poll in the Facebook group just the other day asking if you all have had a vegan cookout this summer yet, or maybe you still needed to have one, or if you had brought veggie burgers to someone else's cookout instead. And the results are in. Looks like we have 90% for yes, and we have 10% for not yet. And no one said that they brought their own veggie burgers to someone else's cookout. So good for you, I suppose, that you didn't have to go to a cookout with meat. Or maybe you did and you just didn't bring your own veggie burgers. But hopefully you just didn't have to go to another cookout. And as far as listener mail section, I mentioned someone I posted in the Facebook group earlier. That was Caitlin Thompson. And she said that she is now vegan thanks to this podcast. So thank you, Caitlin. Really appreciate you listening and posting in the Facebook group. It's so awesome to hear from you. She said that she was vegetarian for only about 2 short months before she made the switch to being vegan. And she said she became vegetarian after scrolling through Instagram and seeing a video of a crawfish trying desperately to escape a pot of boiling water. After I cried my eyes out, I knew it was time for a change. Thank you, Tiny Crawfish, and thank you, Vegan Next Door, for opening my eyes. And then also she said, does anyone have a line on where I can get a vegan stuffed crust pizza? That is legit the only food I miss post-switch. So really, really cute, sweet post. And she posted a picture of herself. So thanks again, Caitlin. And if any of you would like to do the same thing, I'd love to hear from you. And let us know about that vegan stuffed crust pizza if anybody has any ideas. I commented that I don't think I've had a vegan stuffed crust pizza. And I don't know if I've seen one before I'm sure at a lot of cool vegan pizza places like in Portland or something that there might be. But there is a recipe that someone else commented with a pita recipe, stuffed crust tomato basil pizza with vegan mozzarella. That looks really good. I feel like it'd be pretty easy to make at home. Like, you can buy pre-made dough at the stores that are at supermarkets, and it's usually vegan, and I think it's pretty good dough. And just getting like some Follow Your Heart or Daya shreds and just putting that in the crust and rolling it yourself and then making a normal pizza like you would. I feel like that's how you do it, and it shouldn't be too hard. So Caitlin, if you try that recipe out, please share with us in the group because I may do the same thing. It sounds amazing. Hopefully it's good. Great. So now we're going to go into our main event. Okay, so here I am with the Vegan Next Door podcast's very first guest, my boyfriend, James Clank.
Hi, everybody. How's it going?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here. I'm very honored to be the first guest.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Hopefully the first of many. So today, there were a few different topics that I thought about interviewing you about in particular. Mm-hmm. So, listeners, I talk about, James a lot in a lot of the podcasts. He is a firefighter and paramedic, and he's vegan. So I originally was thinking maybe just interviewing you solely about that, mm-hmm. Which we'll definitely touch on in this interview for sure, because it's a huge part of your life and therefore a big part of my life. But I think first off, I wanted to just kind of share our story and how we met and your journey to becoming vegan, because not to toot my own horn or anything, but you went vegan after we met.
Yep.
So yep. I get a lot of questions about that from people saying, how do you get your partner to go vegan? Or from again, people who are vegan asking how can you go on a date with someone who's not vegan? So many people can't fathom how to do that. So I kind of just wanted to talk about that here, because it's a success story in more than one way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah. So anyway, do you want to tell them how we met?
How we met initially through the dating app?
Well, you can tell the whole story.
Yeah, it was really funny. We matched on Bumble when you were over here for your dad's retirement from the Marines. And mm-hmm. We didn't get to initially see each other then. A few months go by, we exchange a few texts, some clean snaps back and forth. And then the timing worked out where you were going to be up here in Alexandria, Virginia for the AR conference, and I work in, an adjourning district. So I was able to come up and meet you and take you out on a date. And mm-hmm. me being wanting to be very polite and gentlemanly, wanted to make sure I took you somewhere vegan. So I had no idea what veganism was, what vegan food was at all. And I had no idea what a big deal the Animal Rights Conference was. So I just Googled vegan food in the area, and an Ethiopian place came up. So came and picked you up, and we went and got Ethiopian food, and I guess you could say it just took off from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that weekend, you took me out, the night before the AR conference started, mm-hmm. and then we wanted to see each other again, and I had to be at the conference that whole weekend, obviously.
Yep.
And, was like excited to be there, and was going to be speaking. And so it's really cool because then James came to hear me speak. And then he ended up spending like the whole rest of the weekend at the conference, which is kind of crazy.
I did. It was definitely an experience, to say the least.
Yeah. I would think that it would be really overwhelming for someone who wasn't vegan. Like, I don't know. Do you want to share like what some of your first experiences were there, or like a couple things that kind of stood out to you as like shocking? Or
I would say if you're, first of all, in a job or do something pretty regularly where you're so surprised to the point where most things don't surprise you anymore, maybe that's why it went so well, because I've been, a paramedic for a little bit now. And like I said, there's a lot of things that really don't surprise me anymore. I really enjoyed learning about how big of a deal it was, and how much more, I don't want to say it's a popular movement, but how much more aware people are becoming, and why they're making the switch to veganism, whether it be, you love animals and you would never want to hurt one for health reasons, for environmental reasons, or maybe it's just all the above. And getting to learn a little bit about that, and getting to watch you speak about how to target youth, and have them maybe become a little more aware and educate their peers was pretty interesting as well. I really enjoyed, I love dogs and I love beagles, so seeing the beagle rescue group that was there, and understanding what's actually done to them kind of blew my mind and made me a little sad. And then, to end the night watching those drag queens sing was pretty interesting too. I would say that is maybe the most overwhelming part, but then again, there's a guy who calls 911 a lot and he wears a muumuu, so I don't know.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy weekend. And then just seeing like even beyond it just being the animal rights world, I think like seeing any group of people, because the AR conference is pretty much all vegans, all animal rights people,
Right,
together, and they know that they are among people who are similar to them, and so then a lot of people just kind of like let loose and get kind of crazy in the like party time, at night. So you were there for that too, which is a fun time. But I think it would be kind of funny, like, or like it would be overwhelming if I came to a firefighter conference with you. Like, I'd be like, oh God, because I feel like everyone would be all amped up,
Yeah, you wouldn't know what to do.
No, exactly. So you handled all of that really well. So then transitioning from that, you went vegan like what, in the first couple months of us dating? Or I mean, I think like right away you started to like make the transition, and from the get-go you never ate animal products in front of me, like on all of our dates, or just even keeping food together.
Yeah. I mean, among many things, it makes it easier to go on dates, and I wouldn't want to offend you because obviously I liked you and I wanted to keep seeing you more, and I knew probably the quickest way to piss you off was eat an animal product in front of you, so that's why I did that.
Smart. Take notes if you're not vegan and you're listening to this.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many aspects of my life that relate to health, and I think that was a big push for me initially. Firefighters are very predisposed to cancer just with our job being around so many carcinogens, that you and the vegan community and all the research really just sold it to me on reducing the risk of cancer. I mean, if you get a chance, look at the statistics. It's pretty amazing that on the U.S. government's own website, they talk about how processed meats, so anything you buy from a store in a plastic package, not just hot dogs like that was on the news. That's chicken that's in a plastic package. That's hamburger meat that's in a plastic package. Any of that. It's right up there with plutonium and cigarettes for causing cancer. Blew my mind. I had no idea. So I thought that was interesting. I will say the transition wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, because you were out on the West Coast and I was on the East Coast.
I left you to your own devices.
Yeah, I was like, a salad every day. And, there was a little weight loss associated with that. But there are some tips that Marissa has given to go ahead and make sure that doesn't happen. So you're just like, oh, there's no vegan food. I guess I won't eat. It doesn't work well. I was a little crabby at work.
Yeah, I think like we slowly realized that you weren't eating enough food because he would like send me pictures of his food and it'd be like a small salad without much on there. I mean, salads can be very filling, obviously, if you have all kinds of stuff on there and if it's like in a giant bowl, which is definitely like the type of salad I normally would recommend. But he'd have like, a little salad from a to-go place and like a little bag of chips and like an orange and then I would just like assume that there would be more food that he didn't send me a picture of, but then he was like, no, that's like all I had today.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, babe, we're gonna need to amp up those calories.
When my pants started to be a little loose, I understood there was an issue, but it's a learning experience, and like I said, there's things that were easy about it and things that weren't easy. Cutting out all your meats is honestly it's pretty easy actually. People say you lose all your calories in food. Maybe you have to eat a little more greens or replace it with some tofu, eat a few more potatoes and rice, whatever. I will say the hard part was definitely the eggs and the milk, dairy products. And that's just because it's in everything nowadays.
Yeah,
so,
and all processed foods.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's, I learned very quickly from visiting you over on the West Coast. It's easier to be vegan on the West Coast than it is the East Coast. And not saying that it's impossible. I'm just saying there's, you can go out and grab a quote unquote burger out here on the West Coast, and maybe not as readily available on the East Coast. But now it is. If you're in a remotely populated area, you can. So it's getting a little easier.
Yeah. James is a big fan, and I mean, honestly, who isn't really, of the Impossible Burgers? And if you just look on their website, like I've mentioned on the podcast before, you type in your town or your zip code, and it's really shocking. Like a lot of restaurants you wouldn't even expect to have it are now carrying it. Like restaurants that have never carried vegan options before. Because I think something that this brand is doing that's really impressive is that they're not treating it like a normal vegan option. They're treating it like a delicious like delicacy in and of itself. Like foodies everywhere, even who aren't vegan, want to eat the Impossible Burger, and everyone wants to try it and eat it and everything.
Yeah, and that usually opens up the door for more, maybe like a vegan cheese or two to put on top of it that these places understand when they actually get it. So.
Right. Yeah. So cool. So you were saying the health stuff was really important to you. So, early on, I think I recommended a few different documentaries for you to watch on Netflix. I said the 3 top ones to try to cover all my bases. I said for health, watch What the Health. Environmental stuff, watch Cowspiracy. And then for animal rights stuff, a popular one is Earthlings, but it's just really graphic, and it's due for a facelift, which they're actually coming out with Dominion, a new film that's supposed to be the new Earthlings, but it's not out yet. But anyway, at the time, I recommended Okja on Netflix, which is fictional, but really based in reality and really moving about animal rights. So, so tell us a little bit about like what you thought of those documentaries.
So I watched What the Health first, obviously because I was sold on the health aspect the quickest, and it was pretty amazing. Everything they give you fact-wise, and all these big Fortune 500 food supplier companies and meat companies and all that, and how many of them declined to do interviews when he brought a fact to them. I'm sure if he went up and was like, tell me about how great your meat is, they would have had a representative out there right away.
True.
But who wants to be seen in a negative light that would cut on business? So that I really enjoyed that one, and the guy makes it really interesting. For Cowspiracy, the amount of greenwashing that is pushed on us as a society today is amazing. If you see how much water and resources and land and food and feed is used to raise, one cow that can feed what? I don't know. How many people? Less than 100 probably, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Idea. Well, I know the common statistic is 1 pound of like ground beef took 13 pounds of grain
Yeah, how
And that's
crazy.
just grain.
Yeah,
That's
how
not like
crazy.
water or land usage just to make that 1 pound. So, and I mean, grain is like a delicious, healthy, wholesome food, that can stand alone, that people don't eat meat. So it's just kind of crazy. Like you could have 13 pounds of food or 1 pound of food that's killing people.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty incredible, and I, as you know very well, I love cars. I'm a motorhead, as they would say, and
Mm-hmm.
somebody would always try and guilt me about how the cars that I drive are environment killers, when in reality, yeah, maybe a little bit, but all the other things, if you become vegan, I don't want to say that means you have a right to try to drive a gas guzzler, but
Not quite,
no,
but
no, no. Um, that and then uh
like recycling and like straws and stuff that you were
yeah,
talking about earlier.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty incredible too. About, I know it's the big push and we're moving in the
Mm,
right direction when we do it, but that is just a small part of it.
right.
I bet these plastic companies all got together and were like, all right, guys, what can we sacrifice to keep everything off the main picture here? Straws, cool. Yes, it's the right movement. Yeah, they're getting stuck in sea turtles and killing dolphins and all the fish in there. But maybe we should stop killing the things in the ocean initially and
Right.
stop putting our trash in there. And so,
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah, like the episode I just did 2 episodes ago is about, seafood and sea life and everything. And way more animals, including dolphins, sea turtles, animals that people like, like universally like, that
yeah,
they aren't trying
yeah,
to kill. Those animals are getting killed by the millions by the commercial fishing industry, as well as even just individual people fishing and leaving lines and hooks and all kinds of crap, in the ocean or lakes or whatever. And all of that is a ton of plastic, and it's killing more animals than these straws are.
right.
So it's like a trendy thing, sure, to have these metal straws. And I mean, we have a ton. We've tried to stop using them as well,
Yep.
and just to try to reduce our waste and our plastic overall, because that's important too. But it's really frustrating when there's little things like this that people do, and then they feel like satisfied
Yeah,
with
it's
themselves.
like how it's a big thing to, drive a Prius in California.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not really. Sure, maybe you're making a small impact, or take a quick shower, or
Mm-hmm. Recycle.
recycle,
Yeah.
and we're a green hotel. We don't wash the seats unless you request.
Yeah,
That
that's
type
so
of
frustrating.
deal.
Right.
It's just and it all comes back to also another big point here. Even if you're not vegan, you can take a step back and understand that the world's population is growing, and we are not going to be able to sustain the rate we're going at with the foods that we're eating.
Right.
So there's some other interesting facts in there that if we took all this land that we're using for cattle, pigs, all that, and planted crops on it, we wouldn't have an issue anymore.
We wouldn't have world hunger kind of thing.
Yeah, hopefully there wouldn't be these dictators that are really just ruining everything for everyone. But we
Right.
would, yeah. So
Yeah. So, really good stuff. I think what always stuck with me from Cowspiracy in particular was that they showed, like, because it's popular to have like grass fed and free range beef, or steak or whatever, from cows who are like free range. And, a lot of people, like I've said before, I think, most people are good, and I think most people love animals and they don't like to hear or see animals getting hurt. So then they think like they can have their steak and still be kind to animals as long as the animals are treated well. I mean, we were just talking about this the other day, that someone that we know was talking about this, where they like want animals to be treated better, but they still see them as a source of food. And it's just really not possible for multiple reasons. I mean, first of all, just with our capitalistic society, anytime that anything or anyone is treated as a good to get profit, they're not going to be treated well, because capitalism will just try to optimize the profitability of that. Right. So that's why animals are treated so horrifically, because they're treated as, objects, not these living beings. But then also how in Cowspiracy it showed, like, if with our current demand of beef, if all the beef in America was free range, it would take like 9 earths to have the room for that. And there'd be no cities, there would be no rainforests, it would all be grazing land. So it's literally impossible. So that's not a solution. That's not like a solution for the world. No. So it's really frustrating to me when people think that they're doing good by purchasing that.
Yeah, I think honestly, if we're going in progression of the three big points of veganism and why it's good for not only you but your surroundings and the entire world, I think that was the second point that I was sold on most readily after the health aspect for that. Why wouldn't it be everybody loves themselves? They're focused on themselves. So you could be the most generous person on the face of the earth, but you're no good to everyone else unless you're taking care of yourself. So
yeah, true.
So that, and then the last movie that you had me watch was Okja. And even if you're not a vegan or you didn't even know that it was an animal rights movie, it was honestly a good movie to watch. I thought it kept me captivated, and it was pretty interesting. So all the non-vegans out there, a good one to watch. And I will say, I don't want to say this is the last point I was sold on, and obviously everybody is different about why they go vegan. I would say up until maybe now a few months ago, I've really started to understand the animal rights side of it. And I don't want to say I was insensitive or I've been knolled before with my job and things I see. It didn't click as quickly for me, but now, nobody wants to hear about some poor innocent animal dying. I'm not saying we would, but in other countries they are. Just imagine that being your dog. I mean, it sucks. So.
Right. Yeah, like the Yulin dog meat.
Yeah, that's a
festival.
Really frustrating. I mean, I've seen some pretty nasty things, but I can't even stomach 2 seconds of those videos.
Right. And then when you as we talk about in this podcast, like when you start to expand your compassion to other animals other than just dogs, then all factory farming and slaughterhouse footage is like how those dog videos are. So it's really frustrating, I know, for a lot of vegans, because a lot of non-vegans get really up in arms about that Yulin dog meat festival. And it's like, okay, well, if you think this about dogs, like, why don't you think about other animals? Like they're all the same.
Yeah.
And they really are. When you watch videos of like rescued animals that are normally considered food, like pigs and cows, they run around the yard, they try to cuddle with you, like they like to walk around the house, just like a dog. So cool. Well, I think it's really interesting, to hear everyone's vegan story and why they're vegan and how that whole journey went. So thanks for sharing that. Hopefully it's helpful to some folks. Obviously, I offer I identify as a woman, and I offer a very feminine perspective maybe sometimes. So I think it's just really good to hear from you, from someone with very different life experiences than me.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to ask you a little bit more about your job too. So what is it like being a vegan in the fire department?
I'll be honest, it was really hard at first because we're a very tight-knit community. Obviously, we're together for 24 hours plus, and we like to cook. Some stations like to cook their lunch and their dinners together. Some stations do just dinners, and my station does just dinners. So the biggest impact I had at first was dinners, and I wouldn't call it toxic masculinity like some people would. I would maybe just call it ignorance or unwillingness to try, because of the way you were brought up. They used to teach you to be big and strong. You had have your glass of milk and your burger, and I think some people are just in that mindset, and they won't change, unfortunately. So that was something I had to overcome. Luckily, there's a great place right next to my station where I like to get my lunch, and I'll usually grab another nice tofu bowl from there for dinner as well.
And some other people like to get stuff from there too, right?
Yeah.
So you guys can still go there together.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then most of the time at the station, with whatever the main course is going to be, they'll usually do like potatoes or green beans or broccoli on the side, so I can usually have
or like
those.
Spaghetti. Yeah, right? That's like a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of food.
Yeah, so
that's
things
good.
like that. There's a few options there. There was a little bit of questioning, to say the least, from my crew when I first decided to do this and why I did this, and they thought it was just from Marissa and I was crazy. Well, maybe it was a little bit at first. But now that I've done it and I give people some facts, and they listen, and as long as maybe they're hearing it from me every now and then, maybe it will resonate at some point. But
Yeah.
But who knows? I would say if you get any pushback from your bros or your buds, just keep doing your thing, and if they're not going to listen, you don't have to keep pushing it on them. Just keep doing your thing, and maybe they'll come around at some point. The more you force things on people, the less willing they are to do it usually. So
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like lead by positive example. Like do your thing, be the best that you can be at your thing. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, and no one's perfect either.
Right.
So maybe you had a rough day, and you're really feeling a chocolate bar, and you're going to the store, and man, there's nothing here, and you need to grab yourself something sweet. Like we said, no one is perfect, but as long as you're making positive movements and trying to be the best person you can, especially in front of others, like with the vegan Christmas cookies. That was
Oh
was
yeah,
very-
yeah. Do you want to tell them about that?
yeah, it was really funny. My mom makes these great Christmas cookies that I loved growing up, and you said you could make a vegan version of them.
Yeah, I
You
was
ma-
like, bring it on. Let
So-
me veganize it.
So you did, and they were fantastic. And I brought them to the station for the fellas, and they all said, I told them initially that I was going to bring in cookies, and I told them they were my mom's, so they would try them. Because if I said they were from Marissa, they obviously would not eat them. So she probably made close to 40 cookies?
Oh my god, I think I made like 100. Do you remember those big trays?
Yeah, you made a
Like,
lot. You made a lot of cookies.
Those like chafing dishes, basically. Yeah, for catering, I filled one of those. with cookies.
Needless to say, by the end of the cookie tray, when everyone had had 4 or 5 cookies, and I said, yeah, so those are Marissa's cookies, they were all, gave me a look, kind of laughed, and then said, well, she can make them again. So
And then you've met a few other vegan firefighters or paramedics or ones like trying to go vegan, right? Like with their girlfriends a few times.
yeah, there's one guy at a neighboring station who him and his girlfriend do it, and there's another guy who right before he left for San Diego Fire Department, he went totally vegan, and then there's another guy in the department who's a medic as well as like me. He does it. I talked to him more.
Mhm.
His family doesn't do it with him, and they usually don't, so he'll have to make his own thing at home. But
Interesting.
Yeah.
And for him, is it like health reasons?
health, absolutely
Interesting.
health.
Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, it's cool just to hear there's other guys in the department, that are vegan, and like I feel like, I every few weeks or so I'm hearing of another vegan firefighter or something on Instagram, or getting like a PETA award, or like in New York Times there was just an article about 2 guys in I think New York City Fire Department who were both vegan. They like work out together and do like Iron Man stuff. So yeah, I mean it makes sense because so many people who are in fields where they have to be athletic and strong, so including professional athletes, like more and more they are all going vegan to like optimize their performance and reduce their risk of various diseases. So I it totally makes sense for people in the fire department as well. So hopefully that trend just expands more. Yeah. And something interesting too is like, do you want to share kind of what we talked about, and like in terms of a lot of your calls are from diseases that you heard about in the What the Health film?
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, anywhere from 90 to 95% of my calls, I'll speak frankly, they're BS. I hate to say it. We call them milk runs, but I guess in this case it's like an almond milk run for me now. A lot of things. Oh, I stubbed my toe and my grandson couldn't come pick me up, so I'll just call 911. And the facility calls 911. Next thing you know, me and grandma are taking a 5-minute ride up to the hospital. So that type of deal. But a lot of my more serious calls are strokes and heart attacks. And it's crazy. I've been seeing them younger and younger now. It used to just usually be around the 50, 60, 70 range. I've had a few 40-year-olds who have been having quote unquote, the big one. And if you just watch what the health and understands a disease process and what all this cholesterol and animal fat is doing to the inside of your arteries and to your heart and to your body and to your blood pressure, it's really easily preventable. You know, as long as everybody's still eating animal products, I guess I'll still have a job.
Wow.
So.
Wow. That's really interesting. And it's so sad. It's so sad too, because there's just so much misinformation out there. You know, like people don't know, like you said, like so many people, especially like older generations, were raised thinking that they have to have that glass of milk at dinner every night. You know?
Yeah, I think it's going to take a big society change, and I don't think it's going to be overnight. I think we're moving in the right direction, though. I mean, you've seen some statistics. I just saw you looking at an article earlier today about meat stores, and, you know, a few months ago, one of Australia's big dairy production plants, I think their third largest one, if I remember correctly, shut down.
Right. Yeah, and I was just looking at an article earlier that was like, I think like 30% of Wisconsin's dairy farms have shut down in the last year. Something crazy like that. And Wisconsin's one of the highest dairy producing states. So
yeah, I would never wish anyone out of a job, but if their job is, you know, harming animals and they don't know any better, well, maybe as a society we can move towards some things and find something else for them to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is an interesting topic. I mean, obviously, so many people are able to like transfer those skills, you know, if they farm animals to farming like other non-animal agriculture. And then also there are tons of folks without jobs. So with the constant creation of vegan food companies and food science and like I was just reading also, like the tofu industry is on the rise and the nutritional yeast industry is on the rise.
Yeah, interesting.
So, you know, so we're creating, you know, I feel like it's all evening out in our economy. So,
yeah.
So that's good. And obviously overall it's absolutely for the greater good that these like farms would be shutting down. So, yeah. And now I see this a lot, and you've mentioned it at the station as well. A lot of guys or people, I guess I shouldn't say guys, because there are plenty of females in your department as well.
Yep.
Badass ladies out there. So, but many folks aren't vegan and they eat meat, but they have like almond milk in the fridge, right?
Yeah. I see it more and more often now. A lot of guys are getting on the almond milk. I don't want to call it a craze, but yeah. I mean, it's just incredible. If anyone is, even if you're trying to experiment with a little bit of veganism, I would say cut out your dairy products for 2, 3, 4 days a week. See how you feel. I promise you're going to feel a lot better.
Hell yeah, it's true. So true. Like when I switched from I was vegetarian for a long time, then I switched to being vegan, and I lost like so much weight in those first 2 weeks. I think I lost like 15 pounds in a few weeks.
I'm not surprised.
And it was great. It was good weight to lose. And just felt lighter. Was going to the bathroom a lot. It was great. Dairy is definitely not good for our system. So, yeah, cool. So, any final thoughts about vegan dating or vegan firefighting or any other industry?
I would say just veganism in general. If you're considering it, just remember nobody's perfect, and anything you're doing is better than nothing. And you're making a positive change for not just you, but your fellow humans here on Earth. So that's all I got.
Absolutely awesome. Well, thank you, James. Thanks for being on the show. Appreciate having you.
Thank you so much. And as I said, I really love being the first guest. Makes me feel so special.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. All right. Well, thank you.
No problem.
Bye. Hopefully you enjoyed that interview with James, the vegan firefighter paramedic, and my boyfriend. So, if you have any questions about vegan dating, please let me know. I feel like I'd want to do a future episode where I talk maybe about some of my experiences before I met James and how that was like going on different dates with people as a vegan. And, it always comes up, and I almost went on dates almost exclusively with non-vegan people. So it is interesting, and I definitely would have some tips, and I really just want to empower like anyone listening who is vegan to expect that someone you are going on a date with, or someone that you are already with romantically, that they should respect you and your journey to veganism and vegetarianism, and wherever you are on your journey here, and they should respect that and join you on that journey, or at least do that with you. Like, maybe they don't have to be 100% vegan all the time, but they should be vegan when they're with you, because whatever you're eating together, like, I just can't imagine if I was with someone and we would go grocery shopping together and be getting different foods because they still eat animal products and I don't. Or if we go out to a restaurant and they're going to order something with meat and cheese in it, and then it's like we can't share it. Like, not only would I be offended, but then also, just on a practical level, we couldn't even share food. I love sharing food. Like, I love getting multiple things with a friend or family member or with James or whatever, and we can try different stuff. So just even on that, just want to empower you to, like, to kind of expect that. I mean, don't, I guess, go expecting it, because then you can turn some people off. But kind of just, give yourself the confidence to be treated well and to be respected. And that should bleed over into, them respecting you in every other way. So yeah, just wanted to give that empowering message out there. But that is all that I have for this week. So like I mentioned, head over to the Facebook group for discussion. Please email me or Facebook message or Instagram message me if you have any feedback or questions or comments on this episode, or anything I should cover in some next episode. All right, love you all. Have a great week. Bye-bye.